About 2 billion people all over the world that looks like us, but their lives are a lot harder. Wakanda has the tools to liberate them all.
And what tools are those?
Vibranium.
The film begins with a young boy asking his father to tell him a story. The story of vibranium is told by adults. A massive meteorite containing the hardest metal, vibranium, collided with the Nile River's sources millions of years ago, causing plant damage. Later, during the human era, 5 tribes in the land known as Wakanda fought for control of that vibranium, until a spirit led a certain warrior to find and eat a heart-shaped herb affected by the metal vibranium. He developed superhuman powers and became the first Black Panther. Except for the Jabari tribe, 4 of the 5 tribes submit to his authority. The vibranium is used by the Wakandans to create cutting-edge technology. They see the horrors of other countries and have cut themselves off from the rest of the world. They hid and pretended to be less industrialist than a third-world country. King T'Challa pays a visit to his brother N'Jobu, who was working undercover in Oakland, California, in 1992. T'Challa accuses N'Jobu of assisting Ulysses Klaue, a black market arms dealer, stealing vibranium from Wakanda. T suspicions Shakas are confirmed when partner Jobu's reveals himself to be Zuri, another undercover Wakandan. He confronts N'Jobu, who becomes enraged and threatens T-loyal Shaka's friend, Zuri, with death. T'Challa reluctantly kills N'Jobu to save Zuri and abandons N'son Jobu's Eric to keep the Wakandans from discovering the truth. T'Challa returns to Wakanda 1 week after T-death Shakas at the hands of Helmut Zemo, disguised as a masked James Barnes, to take the throne. After assisting Okoye, the leader of the all-female fighting force the Dora Milaje, in retrieving his ex-lover Nakia from an undercover mission in Nigeria's Sambisa forest. He meets his mother, Queen Ramonda, and his younger sister, Princess Shuri, the nation's current technological genius. Later, at his kingship ceremony, T'Challa drinks a liquid that removes his enhanced strength and formally invites anyone to challenge his claim to the throne in ritual combat. M'Baku, the leader of the mountain-dwelling Jabari tribe, has stepped forward as a challenger, claiming that T'Challa is unworthy of the throne. The two engage in ritual combat, and despite his lack of strength, T'Challa defeats him and saves his life. T'Challa is crowned king and drinks a fluid made from the heart-shaped herb. T'Challa falls into a deep sleep as his body digests the herb, during which he visits the ancestral plane and reunites with a vision of his father, who advises him that he is a good man but also warns him that he faces difficult times ahead and should surround himself with people he trusts. With this, T'Challa awakens from his slumber. In the meantime, a gang led by Klaue and comprised of an ex-US Black Ops soldier, Eric Stevens aka Killmonger, steals an ancient Wakandan vibranium axe from a museum in London. Wakanda learns of Klaue's actions and learns that he has resurfaced in South Korea. Wakabi, T-friend Challa, who lost his parents as a result of the dealer's actions, begs the young monarch to bring him to justice. T'Challa meets with Shuri before the mission, who has developed a number of impressive technologies, including sound-absorbent shoes and modifications to the Black Panther suit. It's disguised as a necklace, and it absorbs every hit and converts it into kinetic energy. T'Challa, Okoye, and Nakia intend to apprehend Klaue at an underground casino in Busan, where he intends to sell the stolen artifact to an unknown buyer. The plan, however, goes awry when T'Challa discovers the buyer is CIA agent Everett Ross and Klaue suspects the transaction is a ruse. As a result, the Dora Milaje are compelled to sabotage the operation, resulting in a shootout. When Klaue tries to flee, T'Challa, Ross, Shuri, Nakia, and Okoye pursue him across the city in a car chase. T'Challa follows in his suit as Shuri rides a car through a projection back home that operates an actual car on which T'Challa rides. Klaue eventually crashes, and T'Challa nearly kills him. However, after witnessing civilians filming him, he is forced to reconsider and turns him over to the CIA. T'Challa and Okoye listen in through a device T'Challa planted on Ross as Ross interrogates Klaue. Klaue tells Ross everything he didn't know about Wakanda and everything it has to offer. Killmonger and his team set up explosives behind a wall outside. Nakia notices this on security cameras and rushes to warn everyone, but the villains blow the wall down. When they begin shooting, Ross shoves Nakia out of the way, taking a bullet in the back. T'Challa notices a ring around Killmonger's neck similar to one that belonged to his grandfather. As Killmonger takes Klaue away, T'Challa decides to take Ross, who has been severely injured, while protecting Nakia, rather than pursue Klaue. Ross is given something to keep him calm until they return to Wakanda, where Shuri can save him using the nation's advanced technology. The villains proceed to a plane that Killmonger wishes to use to travel to Wakanda. Klaue kidnaps Killmonger's girlfriend because he has other plans, but Killmonger kills the woman before shooting Klaue. He informs Killmonger that he will not be allowed into Wakanda unless he reveals a tattoo on his lip that most Wakandans have. He then murders Klaue. Back in Wakanda, W'Kabi expresses his dissatisfaction with T'Challa for failing to bring Klaue in. At the same time, Shuri is tending to Ross, who is being healed by vibranium. T'Challa then goes to find Zuri and questions him about Killmonger's possession of his grandfather's ring. Zuri is then forced to reveal his knowledge of N'Jobu. In a flashback to 1992, N'Jobu steals the vibranium in order to distribute it to other people of African descent so that they can fight back against their oppressors. T'Chaka stepped in and killed N'Jobu with his claws after N'Jobu turned his gun on Zuri. T'Chaka was filled with remorse, and they left his son, Eric, behind. When this happened, the boy was in the courtyard, and he later discovered his father's body. Eric went on to become a Black Ops soldier, earning the moniker Killmonger due to his high body count, as evidenced by the marks on his body for everyone he's ever killed. Killmonger enters Wakanda carrying Klaue's body. He hands it over to W'Kabi, who leads Killmonger to the palace. Killmonger reveals his true name, N'Jadaka, as well as the fact that he is N'Jobu's son. Jobu's W'Kabi proves it to everyone by showing them Killmonger's ring. He declares his intention to take the throne, challenging T'Challa to a ritual battle for the throne. When it is determined that Killmonger has a legitimate claim, the ritual combat begins. With everyone gathers by the falls once more for the challenge, with T'Challa relinquishing his powers for ritual combat. Killmonger fights brutally and easily defeats T'Challa. Zuri intervenes to save T'Challa, knowing that Killmonger has a grudge against him. Killmonger fatally impales Zuri, then defeats T'Challa and throws him over a waterfall, much to Ramonda, Shuri, and Nakia's horror, where he is presumed dead. Killmonger is thus elevated to the throne. Killmonger orders everyone to burn a garden of heart-shaped herbs for future kings after ingesting the heart-shaped herb to gain Black Panther powers, but Nakia sneaks one away with her. Nakia, Shuri, Ross, and T'Challa's mother Ramonda flee to the mountains to seek the help of the Jabari tribe. They ask M'Baku for assistance and learn that M'Baka's men are caring for the comatose T'Challa, whom they rescued in exchange for M'Baka's life. Ramonda grinds the heart-shaped herb into a drink for T'Challa, who was brought by Nakia, before they bury him in the snow where he is resting. T'Chaka returns to the ancestral plane and meets his father's spirit, who tells him it's time to let go and join him and his ancestors. T'Challa questions why Eric was left as an orphan in the United States when he should have been returned to his people. T'Chaka claims he did what he did for his people and Wakanda in order for them to remain isolated, but T'Challa angrily rejects this and states that they cannot remain isolated from the rest of the world indefinitely. He then informs his father's spirit that he will not join them, but will return to prevent the monster his people created from assuming the throne. T'Challa then awakens and asks M'Baku for assistance in defeating Killmonger, but he declines. Killmonger carries out his father's plan, aided by W'Kabi and his army. Killmonger prepares shipments of Wakandan weapons for distribution to Wakandan operatives worldwide, including New York City, London, and Hong Kong. T'Challa, returning as Black Panther, shoots down one of their jets as it flies overhead. T'Challa challenges Killmonger to the throne, which never officially ends because T'Challa never dies or concedes. Killmonger's claim to the throne is immediately invalidated when he refuses to cooperate, and Okoye and the Dora Milaje turn against him. Killmonger, who is now wearing his own Black Panther armor, resists with vigor alongside the border tribe. T'Challa and his army charge at W'Kabi, but he blasts them away with his kinetic energy. The Dora Milaje is then led into battle by Okoye. Shuri gives Ross access to a jet in order for him to shoot down the planes carrying the weapons before they leave Wakanda. Ross is able to take them all out. Nakia joins Shuri and Okoye in their fight against Killmonger, who with his new suit easily overpowers the Dora Milaje. Wakabi sends armored rhinos into the fray. T-side Challa loses the battle until M'Baku and the Jabari arrive to help him. Okoye intervenes when one of the rhinos nearly runs down M'Baku. Wakabi and his soldiers are forced to surrender by her. T'Challa saves Shuri and tackles Killmonger into the Great Mound just as Killmonger is about to murder her. T'Challa and Killmonger's fight takes them deep into the vibranium mine. While T'Challa and Killmonger compete for supremacy, sonic disruptors used in the mine's metal transport render their vibranium armors inoperable. T'Challa takes advantage of this and overpowers Killmonger, impaling him with his own short spear. Killmonger, now vulnerable and dying, expresses regret for not seeing how beautiful Wakanda truly is. T'Challa transports Killmonger out of the mine to see the sunset, which N'Jobu had described to him as breathtaking. T'Challa offers Killmonger the chance to be healed, but he declines because he knows he will be imprisoned as a result. Killmonger wishes to be buried at sea with his ancestors, who knew that death was preferable to bondage. He dies peacefully after pulling the spear from his chest. T'Challa is now officially restored to the throne, and M'Baku has been given a seat on the National Tribal Council to represent his tribe in recognition of his loyalty. T'Challa meets Shuri outside Killmonger's old apartment in Oakland. Rejecting the isolationism of previous Wakandan kings, T'Challa reveals that he purchased the building as well as 2 adjacent buildings in order to establish a Wakandan embassy in the United States, which Nakia and Shuri will lead. He then brings down their jet for the kids in the courtyard to see and marvel at. One of the boys then approaches T'Challa and inquires as to his identity. T'Challa is joined at the United Nations by Nakia, Shuri, and Okoye in the mid-credits scene that he announces his plan to reveal Wakanda's resources to the rest of the world and to come out of isolation in the hope of collaborating with the rest of the world. 3 Wakandan children are looking at someone in a hut in the post-credits scene. Shuri tells them not to bother the person. Bucky Barnes emerges from the hut and is met by Shuri, who begins to assist him in his recovery from his mental programming.